changes and innovations, and neutralize any remaining emissions with additional, quantifiable, real, permanent, and socially beneficial offsets. Credible, quality offsets are precious, and we should reverse them to compensate for economic activities where low carbon alternatives don't exist. The climate pledge signatories are making meaningful, tangible, and ambitious commitments. Uber has a goal of operating as a zero emission platform in Canada, Europe, and the US by 2030, and Hinkle plans to source 100% of the electricity it uses for production from renewable sources. Amazon is making progress towards our goal of 100% renewable energy by 2025. And that's pretty big for a company that's that enormous. So, um, 5 years ahead of our initial 2030 target. Amazon is the largest corporate buyer of renewable energy in the world. We have 62 utility scale wind and solar projects and 125 solar rooftops on fulfillment and sort centers around the globe. These projects have the capacity to generate over 6.9 gigawatts and deliver more than 20 million megawatt hours of energy annually. Transportation is a major component of Amazon's business operations and the toughest part of our plan to meet net zero carbon by 2040. To help rapidly accelerate the market for electric vehicle technology and to help all companies transition to greener technologies, we invested more than $1 billion in Rivian and ordered $100,000 of electric delivery vans from the company. We've also partnered with Mahindra in India and Mercedes-Benz in Europe. These custom electric delivery vehicles from Rivian are already operational, and they first hit the road in Los Angeles this past February. 10,000 new vehicles will be on the road as early as next year, and all 100,000 vehicles will be on the road by 2030, saving millions of metric tons of carbon. A big reason we want companies to join the climate pledge is to signal to the marketplace that businesses should start investing in developing new technologies that signatories need to make good on the pledge. Our purchase of 100,000 Rivian electric vans is a perfect example. To further accelerate investment in new technologies needed to build a zero carbon economy, we introduced the Climate Pledge Fund last June. The investment program started with $2 billion to invest in visionary companies that aim to facilitate the transition of a low carbon economy. Amazon has already announced investments in Carbon Cure Technologies, Hakama, Redwood Materials, that's a company owned by J.B. Straubel of Tesla. He's left to perfect recycling, maybe batteries and electronics. Rivian, which is a really big electric car company, invested in by Amazon and Ford. Turntide Technologies, Zero Avia, and Infinium. And these are just some of the innovative companies we hope will build the zero carbon economy of the future. I have also personally allocated $10 billion to provide grants to help catalyze the systemic change we will need in the coming decade. We'll be supporting leading scientists, activists, NGOs, and environmental justice organizations, and other workers in climate to fight climate change and protect the natural world. Late last year, I made my first round of grants to 16 organizations working on innovative and needle-moving solutions. It's going to take collective action from big companies, small companies, nation states, global organizations, and individuals, and I'm excited to be part of this journey and optimistic that humanity can come together to solve this challenge. This is a part I really like because it really explains kind of what it takes to be a disruptor and to be a very successful company. This is my last annual shareholder letter as the CEO of Amazon, and I have one last thing of utmost importance I feel compelled to teach. I hope all Amazonians take it to heart. Here is a passage from Richard Dawkins' extraordinary book, The Blind Watchmaker. It's about a basic fact of biology. Staving off death is a thing that you have to work at, left to itself, and that is what it is when it dies. The body tends to revert to a state of equilibrium with its environment. If you measure some quantity, such as the temperature, the acidity, the water content, or the electrical potential in a living body, you will typically find that it is markedly different from the corresponding measure in the surroundings. Our bodies, for instance, are usually hotter than our surroundings, and in cold climates, they have to work harder to maintain the differential. When we die, the work stops. The temperature differential starts to disappear, and we end up the same temperature as our surroundings. Not all animals work so hard to avoid coming into equilibrium with their surrounding temperature, but all animals do some comparable work. For instance, in a dry country, animals and plants work to maintain the fluid content of their cells, work against a natural tendency for water to flow from them into the dry outside world. If they fail, they die. More generally, if living things didn't work actively to prevent it, they would eventually merge into their surroundings and cease to exist as autonomous beings. That is what happens when they die. While the passage is not intended as a metaphor, it's nevertheless a fantastic one, and very relevant to Amazon. I would argue that it's relevant to all companies and all institutions, and to each of our individual lives too. In what ways does the world pull at you in an attempt to make you normal? How much work does it take to maintain your distinctiveness? To keep alive the thing or things that make you special? I know a happily married couple who have a running joke in their relationship. Not infrequently, the husband looks at the wife with faux distress and says to her, "Can't you just be normal?" They both smile and laugh, and of course, the deep truth is that her distinctiveness is something he loves about her. But at the same time, it's also true that things would often be easier, take less energy if we were a little more normal. This phenomenon happens at all scale levels. Democracies are not normal. Tyranny is a historical norm. If we stopped doing all of the continuous work that is needed to maintain our distinctiveness, in that regard, we would quickly come into equilibrium with tyranny. We all know that distinctiveness, originality, is valuable. We're all taught to be yourself. What I'm really asking you to do is to embrace and be realistic about how much energy it takes to maintain that distinctiveness. The world wants you to be typical. In 1,000 ways it pulls at you. Don't let it happen. You have to pay a price for your distinctiveness, and it's worth it. The fairy tale version of be yourself is that all the pain stops as soon as you allow your distinctiveness to shine. That version is misleading. Being yourself is worth it, but don't expect it to be easy or free. You'll have to put energy into it continuously. The world will always try to make Amazon more typical to bring us into equilibrium with our environment. It will take continuous effort, but we can and must be better than that. As always, I attach our 97 shareholder letter. It concludes with this. We at Amazon.com are grateful to our customers for their business and trust, to each other for our hard work, and to our shareholders for their support and encouragement. This hasn't changed a bit. I want to especially thank Andy Jassy for agreeing to take on the CEO role. It's a hard job with lots of responsibility. Andy is brilliant, has the highest of standards. I guarantee you that Andy won't let the universe make us typical. He will muster the energy needed to keep alive in us what makes us special. That won't be easy, but it is critical. I also predict it will be satisfying and oftentimes fun. Thank you, Andy. To all of you, be kind, be original, create more than you consume, and never, never, never let the universe smooth you into your surroundings. It remains day one. Sincerely, Jeffrey P. Bezos.